Do you think going to parties of a different ideology has become easier in today's politics? How do the voters trust people who switch parties?
Anyone leaves a party, it's not like going and changing your shirt. In my case, it was a very emotional decision. Group of people who've come together who actually hate each other, by the way. What does Congress feel about Sharad Pawar ji? I know very well.
Wouldn't the same apply to Mr. Ajit Pawar or Mr. Eknath Shinde, who were vehemently opposing the BJP till a point?
I've moved on from Congress. It's like a smoker who you tell a smoker stop smoking. They say, I know it's bad for me, but then they light another cigarette.
But you went from the Congress to the Shiv Sena led by Mr. Shinde. Do you really think in terms of the ideology or politics will be able to remain the same? Mr. Deora, welcome to the Quint and Quint Hindi. And thank you for joining me on the 25th episode of Badi Badi Baatein. I ask this as the first question to all my guests. What does Badi Badi Baatein mean to you politically today?
बड़ी बड़ी बातें, जो सबसे बड़ी बात चुनाव के वक्त होता है किसी भी लोकतंत्र में, वो सबसे छोटा नागरिक की क्या अपेक्षा है, क्या वेदनाएं हैं, क्या आकांक्षाएं हैं, वो सबसे बड़ी बात है. एंड आई थिंक दैट इज़ द इशू, द कोर इशू बिफोर एवरी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी, एवरी पॉलिटिशियन शुड बी द कोर इशू.
Over 2 decades with the Congress, now 4 months with the Shiv Sena, how are you settling in?
Settling in, I've settled in very well. In fact, I would say I've settled in better than I expected or anticipated. And sometime back, the party nominated me to the Rajya Sabha, to the upper house of Parliament. I'm very proud feeling. It's good to be back in Parliament. And my politics will be the same. My politics will continue to be development oriented, constructive politics, and essentially to not just represent Mumbai and Maharashtra, but of course raise issues that are national. That's the politics I've always believed in, and that's the freedom I've been given by Eknath Shinde ji.
You said your politics will remain the same. The major reason that the Mahavikas Aghadi split was because of the fact that Mr. Shinde did not want to align with the Congress, but you went from the Congress to the Shiv Sena led by Mr. Shinde. Do you really think in terms of the ideology or politics will be able to remain the same?
Well, my ideology has always been, as I said, constructive. It's always been development oriented. Nothing will change on that front. I don't believe in personal attacks. Look, this disruption in Maharashtra's politics from 2019 has happened for a variety of reasons. In 2019, the public wanted Congress and NCP to sit in the opposition. They wanted BJP and Shiv Sena to run the government one more time. When a disruption took place for the sake of a chair, for the sake of power, when I was in Congress also, when this alliance was being formed in 2019, I was very against that alliance. I spoke out very clearly within my party. I spoke to the leaders of my party. I know what my leaders felt about the alliance then. In fact, I know what the leaders feel about the alliance even now. They are against this alliance at some level. They don't trust certain alliance partners in the state. But as they say, majboori hai.
This is a question which comes from genuine voters, that if there are people who are going to be going from one party to another, which has a completely polar opposite ideology, how do the voters trust people who switch parties? What do you think?
Look, I would say, frankly, it really depends from person to person, and it depends from party to party. To be fair to BJP, and I'm not a BJP member or a spokesperson, to be fair to BJP, to be fair to Mr. Shinde, they haven't diverted from their core ideology. Mr. Shinde is what Bala Sahib wanted Shiv Sena to be. Modi ji is what BJP was when it was formed, I think in 1980, he is what BJP has said it will do. Other parties have deviated from their ideology. It's suddenly taking very sharp U-turns. So sometimes individuals feel frustrated because their core ideology remains the same. When I read about politics and I entered politics in 2004, it was very clear to me, my stand on the Ram Mandir Babri Masjid dispute was whatever the Supreme Court says is something I will accept. Period. In fact, that was the Congress stand at the time when I entered politics. Today, what is the Congress stand on that issue? Today, who's taken a U-turn from UCC? Today, who's taken a U-turn from CA? Today, who's taken a U-turn from 370? And for what are we was Congress taking those U-turns?
But when somebody switches parties, for example, till a day before switching that party, they are vehemently opposing policies of the party that they are going to go to the next day. There are times when,
look, ultimately, I don't think anyone leaves a party. It's not like going and changing your shirt. It's a big decision. It takes a lot of strength, courage to change a party. In my case, it took me a long time. It was a very difficult decision. It was a very emotional decision. Still is an emotional decision. I stayed loyal for 10 years. I worked without power, without being in parliament, out of parliament for 10 years. The best years of my life, 37 to 47, I gave to the party without being in parliament. I gave back to the party. But if you are not being valued in any organization.
You felt undervalued?
Certainly felt undervalued. A person who feels undervalued must move on, must go to where they are valued, where they can contribute. If you are who you are and you're given that freedom to perform and to continue the work you believe in, then that's a good thing.
But don't the issues remain the same, the issues on which you were opposing that particular party that you were joining?
Look, I've never really, if you look at my track record, even on Twitter, for example, there are many times when I was in Congress where I've supported issues of the government of India, led by Prime Minister Modi. I didn't oppose 370. I didn't think it's a bad thing. I didn't think Make in India is a bad thing. I didn't think Digital India is a bad thing. I've always done, as I said, politics constructively. I'm not someone who's a blind spokesperson who will just take the party brief and say what they have to say. There's a reason I didn't become a spokesperson.
Speaking of the Congress, you had once said that the Congress needs to either reform or perish. It's been 10 years of the Congress out of power. There is a lot of infighting going on in the Maharashtra Congress. Where do you think the Congress is today? Is it reforming or is it perishing?
Look, I think that I've moved on from Congress. I moved on for several reasons. And one of the reasons was that I tried for 10 years without any power. I stayed loyal to the party. I tried to reform the party from within. I tried to bring in positive suggestions to improve the party from within. Many times, some of those suggestions were seen as revolt. Sometimes, it's like a smoker who you tell a smoker, stop smoking. And it's bad for you, and they say, I don't care. Or they say, I know it's bad for me, but then they light another cigarette. Congress has that kind of problem. The amount of space that the Congress has given away to parties. When I entered the Congress party in 2004 and fought my first election, Aam Aadmi Party did not exist. Today, Aam Aadmi Party is the Congress of Delhi, in some ways of Punjab. BRS in Telangana did not exist. Mamata Banerjee's Trinamool Congress was a small party. And it goes on. Congress is unable to hold on to its own cadre, its own voter.
2022, the Shiv Sena split. 2023, the NCP split. Many saw Congress as this, especially the Maharashtra Congress, as this steadfast party. And then you exited. And then Mr. Chauhan exited. Mr. Sanjay Nirupam has exited. The series of exits started after you left the party. Nobody has taken any names. None of these leaders have taken any names. But if I could ask you straightforward, is there one particular person that all the leaders who are disgruntled blame for the...
I don't want to get into blaming any individual. But the Congress as a whole is really unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, that it's in a self-destructive mode. And I say unfortunately because if you can't come to power, you must at least give the country a constructive opposition. Hold the government accountable, but when a government is doing something, criticize them constructively. No suggestion, just blind opposition. You can dislike a party, you can dislike individuals, that's natural, but you must have the ability that between elections to see what is good for the country and raise issues that are relevant to the country and that are in national interest. That is something which also unfortunately I don't see in the opposition today.
Do you think the Mahavikas Aghadi has the momentum on the ground? Because the sentiment that is going around from what we see across the state and many parts that we've been to is the fact that you threw the elders of the house out of the house and now you have taken over their home. That is a basic
I
sentiment.
think these are things which will be tested. They haven't been tested as yet in India. They'll be tested soon. And I'm sure that when they get tested, the voters will ultimately understand why, that who is to blame for the disruption that has happened in NCP and in Shiv Sena. They will want someone who can give them opportunities, who has a vision to take India forward, not just somebody or some group of people who've come together who actually hate each other, by the way, who until 3 months ago, you're talking about ideologies, 3 months ago were abusing each other. What was Congress and Arvind and Aam Aadmi Party's politics before? Hatred. What is Congress and Uddhav Thackeray's love lost for each other? What does Congress feel about Sharad Pawarji? I know very well.
But taking from your own analogy, wouldn't the same apply to the NCP and Mr. Ajit Pawar or Mr. Eknath Shinde, who were vehemently opposing the BJP till a point? And even
I don't think Eknath Shinde ji was opposing the BJP. I think Eknath Shinde ji was very clear when like I was clear in the Congress, he was very clear in Shiv Sena that this alliance with the Congress Shiv Sena alliance of 2019 was an unnatural, illogical political alliance. So he has, to be fair to him, he's stuck to what he is, to what Bala Sahib's ideology was.
Mr. Ajit Pawar hasn't.
I'm not his spokesperson, but I can speak on behalf of Mr. Shinde. He has spoken, he has stuck to his core ideology.
55 years your family was associated with the Congress. You have seen politics growing up. Do you think changing ideologies or going to parties of a different ideology has become easier in today's politics compared to what it was during your father's time?
It's a good question, by the way. I think what has happened is there's a very disturbing trend in Indian politics which has propelled this and in some ways made it easier or made it more frequent. If you ask me today, as someone who follows American politics very closely, we have a far better, more robust democratic system in the sense that we have many more parties. We have too many parties. They have really 2 parties. But one area which is very disturbing is that 90 or 95% of parties in India are, the top slot of that party is reserved for a family. To me, it's not something we see in other parts of the world. Yes, I see political dynasties. I see Kennedys. I see Bushes. What that eventually does is, it doesn't allow merit to grow. Parties have become, more and more parties have become undemocratic, where you can predict who the leader will be 10 years from now, 15 years from now. People who are talented sometimes are forced to take difficult decisions. An aspirational person today in Maharashtra believes if Mr. Shinde, who was started out driving auto rickshaw, can become Chief Minister of Maharashtra, it's not reserved for one person, one family. I can become Chief Minister. That is essential in our political system, failing which you will see many desertions here and there, because eventually there's a glass ceiling which a person cannot breach.
What are the biggest issues for Mumbai ahead of the Lok Sabha elections? Because this capital city has seen a lot in the past 5 years.
There are different things for Mumbai. I think one is that there has been a significant improvement in infrastructure in Mumbai. I think that is something which is undeniable. The kind of projects, in fact, I can tell you projects like the Trans Harbour Ceiling, which is now Atal Setu, to the coastal road, to the metro. I think affordable housing for the people of Mumbai is a very issue very close to my heart. There are many people who are affected by housing problems, whether it's Mumbai Port Trust tenants, whether it's LIC tenants, whether it's tenants of MHADA. A third issue which I think is extremely critical is how do we reimagine the economy of Mumbai? Mumbai was once upon a time the only financial center in India. Today, whether we like it or not, we've lost business to many cities, many states. Today, southern cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore have taken a lion's share of IT. One thing which I would say where the government has been extremely successful, the state and center, in the last 10 years, there has not been a single terror attack in Mumbai. People would be afraid to go to movie theatres, to travel by public transport. Today, thanks to the policies of the state and center, Mumbai is much safer. We need to continue in that direction.
Thank you so much, Mr. Deora, for speaking to the Quint and Quint Hindi, and thank you so much for joining me on Badi Badi Baatein.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.